myself situated, and this bracelet, like it, but boy does it like to unclasp. And my eyeliner, I use MAC, and I really enjoyed it. However, apparently they stopped making it. So another one was suggested to me, and I like the application, but it doesn't stay, which seems to be a theme in my life right now. I wasn't supposed to work today, and then I had to, and guys, I just don't have time to not have time. Okay? There's so much in my day. Ooh, gosh. Today, I am talking about Julie Buxbaum's Hope, Love, and Other Punchlines. I think that's what it's called. It's one of those days. No. Every time I try to call it Hope, Love, and Other Punchlines. I do not know why, but I do. Hope and Other Punchlines by Julie Buxbaum. I do not know how many of her books I have posted by now. I've read a handful, and I'm a fence sitter. I read the opposite of love. What's the opposite of love? I don't know. I started with, I think, let me start over. I feel like she kind of writes in two genres. She writes YA, and then she writes general or popular fiction. I think she started more in that popular fiction, and then she has transitioned into doing YA as well. I started with her YA books, and since I liked them so much, I was like, okay, so let me read some of her other stuff, and I didn't like it so much. This book, because it is September and I like to dedicate September to 9/11, I got into this book because I am writing a 9/11 series of my own, and this is really, aside from Extremely Loud and Incredibly Close, the only fiction novel that I have found anywhere near what I'm trying to do. And so of course I was like, yes, I will read this book. I remember being extremely disappointed. I'm happy to say I was not disappointed this time around, and so I was trying to remember why I was disappointed. The general thought was that it didn't tackle 9/11 the way I wanted it to tackle 9/11. However, I mean, guys, this book is a couple years old, and it's probably been a couple years since I've read it. It's natural for me to forget things, which, on another note, which is why I love rereading books, because of the stuff I forget. And this reread felt very close to a first read because of all that I've written. And so I got to sort of the end, and I was like, I don't remember any of this. So now I'm asking myself, did I actually finish Hope and Other Punchlines? Or did I skim and then like kind of finish? Honestly, I don't think I ever finished the book because I do not remember the ending whatsoever. Like, that was news to me. Happy to report that I liked the way that Buxbaum handled the situation. What she wanted to do was talk about the effects of 9/11, which is basically what I'm doing, is, yes, educate readers on the event, but it's more about the impact that it had on people and society and our current culture and things like that. She didn't focus so much on the day. She focused on the people that were left behind. Our two main characters are Noah and, I was gonna call her Ivy, Noah and Abby. And Abby is famous because her parents had worked at the World Trade Center. She was in the daycare the day of, when the towers were falling, as they'd been hit. Over again, because it's one of those days. There are two main characters. Sorry, something buzzed. I don't know what it was. Oh, it's my Duolingo. I haven't practiced my Duolingo today because I got called into work and it screwed up all of my plans. So for Abby, her parents had worked at the World Trade Center, and she had been in the World Trade Center daycare. It had been her first birthday, and then the towers are hit. So people are skedaddling. Somehow this photographer captures a picture of her being carried away with this balloon in her hand and this crown on her head, and she becomes baby Hope. She becomes a symbol of hope on this day of tragedy. She's living in her own shadow her entire life, and she's just trying to figure out how to handle that, because she does not relate. She does not identify with baby Hope because her name is Abbi Hope. So I don't think it was intentional. I don't think the photographer knew that was her name. I don't actually remember how the picture got named. It just so happened that she became a symbol of hope and her middle name was Hope, but she is adamant that her name is Abbi. She is dealing with something called 9/11 syndrome, where this is what a lot of people have begun to develop because of their exposure to toxins and whatnot in the air. A woman who carried her out has already died because she developed cancer due to 9/11. And now Abbi has developed this cough, and when she coughs up blood, and she says, I'm dying. I know I'm dying. So I'm just going to embrace my life. I'm going to enjoy the time that I have left. And I kind of want to leave baby Hope behind. So she gets a job as a camp counselor for the summer. Shift over to Noah, who he is determined to learn the truth behind his dad's disappearance. And we are related back to the baby Hope picture because there are a handful of people identifiable in this picture, and he sees this guy in a Michigan hat. He's like, that is my dad. He had been born shortly before 9/11. His whole life has been without his dad. Whatever point he realized that that was his dad in the picture, he has been convinced that his dad survived and just left them. His mom has since remarried. He doesn't like the guy. I don't know if we're supposed to like him. Towards the end, he does a couple things where we're like, oh, okay, maybe it's all about perception. Noah is convinced that his dad is still alive and he's gonna find him. And he wants Hope or Abbi to help him do it because people won't talk to him. He's trying to talk to people that were in this photo to figure out what they know about the guy in the Michigan hat. And nobody will talk to him until he mentions baby Hope. And then they're like, okay, yes, we'll talk to you. So by happenstance, he is working for the same camp as Abbi. He blackmails her into helping him because he says, okay, so nobody knows who you are, and I guess like if you do this for me, we can keep it that way. They join forces, and this is something that still was a little disappointing to me because I wish that these interviews revealed more about the day, because for me, I want to know about the day and the escape so that can then inform my story and my characters. And a lot of what we get is just who these characters are now. Yes, the way that 9/11 affected them, but we don't get to see what they went through. And I think I was also disappointed because the whole premise of him doing this is to get information on his dad. Yet, if there's 4 or 5 people that he talks to, he only brings up the man in the Michigan hat to 2 of them. It's kind of pointless what you're doing since we're not getting any information. But baby Hope, Abbi, does seem to bring some peace to them, some joy to them, and Noah starts to see her and the good that she does, even though he sees her as Abbi. He sees what the baby Hope of her does for others. Convoluted, complicated, whatever, read the book, but they end up developing feelings for each other. And this could have just been me zoning out, but I was kind of like, when did that happen? Yes, we see them spending time together. We see Abbi enjoying being in Noah's company and the acceptance that he and his best friend Jack give her because she had recently been ejected from her friend group, including her childhood best friend Kat, which that's a storyline I thought could have used a little bit more. It was thin on the ground. We see the way that she is beginning to enjoy being part of Noah's world. We see how he sees her through the way that she interacts with others. And we do get a lot of commentary, particularly by Jack, about how easy she is to be around and how she's always herself. And yeah, Noah admits that he thinks she's attractive, but I did feel like the formation of their relationship happened a little suddenly because he goes from being her blackmailer and she resenting that to her just not really caring about that anymore. Like, that doesn't bother her. And for me, it should have bothered her a lot longer. And then maybe she liked him against her will, against her better judgment, because of what he is coercing her into. And then back to her, the fact that she just kind of goes along with this and allows these people to view her as Baby Hope, even though she doesn't want to be seen as Baby Hope. Again, I thought that it could have been done differently. It didn't make sense to me the way that events played out and the way that characters interacted about it. In any case, we get to a point where they meet with the final person from the picture. This guy is like, oh yeah, I know the guy in the blue hat. Well, not personally, but someone I know knows him. And for me, honestly, my first thought would have been like, who is he? I want to go talk to him because your information is so vague. I want to go talk to him. But what we are told is that, okay, so yeah, the dad got out, but then he went back. He saved people. This upsets Noah. He is irate because he finds it to be extremely selfish, because he's like, so he wasn't thinking about me. He wasn't thinking about my mom. Like, it's a selfish thing to do when you survived to go back and die. He comes home and he goes off on his mom. He's like, you lied to me, because he'd asked his mom, is this my dad in the picture? And she straight up lied and said no. And so he's like, not only did you lie to me, but you lied to me about what happened to him, what he did, about what you knew. And so this entire time, I've been under the assumption that he left us, that he was alive. He was upset. This eventually leads his mom to saying, yeah, you know, you're right, I did, but I'm still mad at him for what he did, for leaving us the way he did. But you know what? Like, he saved 5 people, including a pregnant woman. Now she's got more kids and this and that and the other. And so it's like they have some resolution about their feelings, but then they don't have resolution about their feelings, which I think is great. Great? I think is great. I like that, yeah, they acknowledge the good of what he did, and that there are people around who wouldn't be there without the dad's sacrifice. But at the same time, what would their life have been like? How different would their life have been if he had chosen to continue to run with everybody else in that picture? I thought it was a great juxtaposition of heroic yet upsetting. Back to Baby Hope, or Abbi. We get a lot about her insecurities, and then how certain things tie back to her best friend Kat, and how essentially they grew apart. Like, there had been some other girls in their friend group. Those 3 started developing different interests, and Abbi didn't. And she kind of equates it back to feeling like a child. She says she looks like a child and her interests are still childlike. The way she dresses is childlike. So we get a lot of references to Kat. And then at one point, she's at a party and Kat approaches her, is like, I wish I could remember the exact words, but basically like, why do we have to ignore each other this way even though we're not best friends anymore? And Abbi replies with, well, I don't think I even know who you are anymore, and then just walks off. We run into Kat's mom, and Kat's mom is kind of asking Abbi if she has any information on what's going on with Kat, and Abby's like, no. And then at the end, with the whole 9/11 syndrome, so this was what I was under the impression, was that in the end, she didn't actually have it. It was just really bad asthma that we needed more medication or some different diagnosis for, but I was completely wrong. Yes, she does have asthma and she's always known it, but she had a benign tumor on her lung. Her symptoms were legitimate. She did have a tumor. It just so happened to be harmless, but she's in the hospital. So she's at camp. She has this coughing fit. Ambulance is called. She goes to the hospital, and yeah, basically the diagnosis is benign tumor. parents had no clue what was going on with her, and now her parents are like, ugh. But she's watching the TV, and the news anchor is interviewing Kat. And of course, we're like, oh my gosh, interviewing Kat. This girl doesn't even know Abbi anymore. What's gonna happen? She ends up basically apologizing, and you almost get the impression that she would like to be friends with Abbi again. And so all of this, I'm just like, I enjoy the theme of friendship in any book. Theme of friendship, big to me. But I wanted more. Was the falling out with Kat a misconception? The nail in the coffin, obviously, Abbi knew they were drifting apart. But then the nail in the coffin was they were supposed to do something. Kat lied. She backed out and lied about not being able to do it. And via social media, Abbi discovered the lie because of the fact that she knew that Kat knew she would find out. She was like, well, I guess this is just how it's gonna be. She doesn't want to be my friend anymore, and this is the proof. Because she knew I would see what she was doing, and she knew I would know she lied. And again, this was a misconception in my brain from my previous read where there had been some kind of miscommunication. Yeah, there wasn't. It was all factual. And I would have liked something bigger. Like maybe at the party, Abbi saying what she's saying, walking away, and Kat being like, absolutely not. We're not going to end there. Or maybe having another interaction in which they hash it out, or at least they get into it. They dig into what happened between them, give a little bit more of Kat's side, because I don't mind if they drifted apart, if they grew up and formed different interests, and that's how it is. I don't mind that, but I thought it was a little severe for it to go down the way it did and then to never be readdressed, considering they were best friends. And then for Kat to have these other two superficial friends who are then taking pride of place over Abbi, I found it hard to swallow, and it was dissatisfying for me the way that it ended with, okay, yes, obviously Kat is acknowledging things, but there's no reconciliation and there's no digging into the meat. Obviously, Abbi and Noah do get together, and this I thought was well done, very true to teenagers, where there's a lot of miscommunication. It was so fun to watch the burgeoning of their relationship, and this is when I liked having Noah's perspective, because we all know what girls think, but we never quite know the guy's side of it. We get this one event where I think they're eating ice cream or they're at a restaurant or something, and Abby's like, oh my gosh, I think this is a date. And then he's saying, oh, we should go watch a movie. And she's like, oh my gosh, I think he's like asking me to go see a movie at his house. So they do, and they watch, because he's all about comedy, which is where the punchline stuff comes in. So he has them watch Harold and Kumar go to White Castle, which, no. If that's what a guy wanted to watch, I'm like, no. I mean, Princess Bride. Like, if we want to go comedy, let's go Princess Bride, but I really don't want to watch a movie revolving that kind of subject matter of Harold and Kumar. She's sitting there and she's like, this is a dumb movie. I don't like this movie. Like, is he gonna make a move on me? And then the next thing we know is we have Noah's perspective, and his best friend is like, you watched the whole Harold and Kumar, like you didn't make a move. And from Noah, we're like, yeah man, all I want to do is kiss her and to put my hand on her thigh and this and that and the other, and I totally screwed up. And so I enjoyed seeing both perspectives of the event. But then we get to that point where they speak to the final person from the photo. Noah is so upset. So on the drive home, Abbi is like, what is going on? Because they had kissed previously, and she's like, did he not like the kiss? Does he not actually want to be together? What's going on here? He won't talk to me. She resolves to just be friends. So that is what she then tells him, and now he's like, just be friends? What's going on here? I like that miscommunication of, this is what he's giving off, so this is what she is accepting, and this is how she's reacting to cover both herself and the relationship in general, and he's like, what in the world? The ending of that, I thought could have been a little bit better too, because now she's in the hospital and no real rehashing of what in the world is going on here. He comes to visit her at one point, and then he does say, well, I don't want to be just friends, and you know, things go from there, and everything's gonna be hunky-dory, and there you go. But I was just like, I needed a little bit more drama. Maybe because I'm a female, or maybe it's because that's what the situation called for, but there was there's an obvious lack of drama in many respects in this book. And so maybe drama with Kat or drama with Noah is all I would have needed to kind of ratchet it up a little. And I loved the idea that she was dying, because it's so real and it's tragic. It emphasizes the point that 9/11 deaths are still occurring. Just because you didn't die that day does not mean you are not a 9/11 death. It's so apropos because she was baby Hope. She gave the world, or at least the nation, hope in the aftermath. And then baby Hope dies? Call me morbid, but I was like, whoa, I'm totally on board with this. Like, I would have been totally okay with it, because it's also her as a teenage girl acknowledging everything she's not gonna get to do. So I thought it was pretty genius to set her on that path. Am I upset that she didn't die? No, I'm not that heartless, but I really enjoyed how from the very first moment that we meet her, this is the precedent that is set, that we have an end that we are going to meet. And what is that end gonna look like? I'm sure there's a lot that I meant to talk about, but I didn't write notes. It is 11 o'clock at night. I have tons of other things to do. I will say I listened to the audiobook. So first time I read the book, second time I listened to the audiobook. And my only complaint, not that the female narrator did a bad job, but I'm not a huge fan. I've heard her in various audiobooks. I'm not a huge fan of the way she speaks. If you're old like me and you watched Rugrats, she is very reminiscent of Lil, you know, Phil and Lil. It's like she's always speaking around something, like a mouthful of something. Just the way she pronounces things, and the cadence of her voice, the tone was really young in my opinion. And so I didn't particularly care for that. Was it a deal breaker? No. But she's not my first choice of a narrator. Still recommend the audiobook. Well done on both sides. Still recommend Hope and Other Punchlines, not Hope, Love, and Other Punchlines, but Hope and Other Punchlines. I will see you next time for another book. Bye.